Welcome back to Power Lunch, everybody. Some new headlines crossing about Starbucks, the coffee maker dealing now with the fallout of a ransomware attack on its software supplier, which is disrupting the company's ability to pay baristas and manage their schedules. Our next guest warns that ransomware attacks could get worse next year. David Kennedy, we welcome him back, founder and CEO of Trusted Sec, an information security consulting firm. Ken Squire still with us. Mr. Kennedy, welcome. What do you make of this attack on a software supplier to Starbucks? This certainly fits with your thesis that we're going to see more and more ransomware attacks. Where are they coming from? Who are the likely perpetrators here, if you had to hazard a guess?
That's right. Unfortunately, this is a third-party company called Blue Yonder, who's a subsidiary of Panasonic. They provide supply chain software management to some of the largest distribution companies in the world, Walmart, you name it. They're kind of integrated into everybody. And they experienced a massive ransomware attack last week, and they're still down as of today. Rumors are that they're looking to pay the ransom and try to recover, which would mean that they are not able to recover from their backups. It's probably a pretty substantial and significant breach to where they're not able to recover. And so you see these what we call supply chain attacks where, you're targeting software that is used as kind of the core critical infrastructure of a lot of these large companies. And it's what we call one-to-many. So they're able to, impact, hundreds, if not thousands of customers all across the world, creating this opportunistic pain point that these companies really just have to pay the ransom to recover back. And that's what we see from a lot of these larger organized crime groups that are more sophisticated in nature. They may only pull off 2, 3, or 4 of these really large heists, but there's so many of these different groups that it seems like it's happening every day. But they're going for the bigger targets. They're going for the larger organizations, the ones that can be a one-to-many supply chain attack that cause massive outages or issues with these big companies like Starbucks, so that they can get massive payouts.
You acknowledge that many of these companies are going ahead and paying these ransom requests. As Ken points out, they are often paid in cryptocurrency. Would ransomware attacks be as severe and as numerous today were it not for crypto, if you had to do it another way?
Not at all. And unfortunately, when you look at what the FBI used to do to go after these groups is they track a lot of the money through money laundering and things like that, which a lot of that ability has gone away with cryptocurrency. The ease of payments, the ability to go and make those payments and for that to be kind of essentially funneled to different accounts becomes very hard for these groups to go and do. And also no real, governance or ability to recover those funds has made it a very opportunistic way for these ransomware groups to, facilitate those payments. I'm not against cryptocurrency in any way, shape, or form, but it definitely has facilitated these groups to be able to get these types of payouts, in millions and millions of dollars. You saw, Caesars paid $14 million. You have these larger ransomware payments of $25 to $30 to $40 million being paid out. That probably would not have been occurring in any way, shape, or form had it been from the birth of cryptocurrency.
David, is this right? This was in the Wall Street Journal today where Amazon's head of cybersecurity said they are identifying 750 million cyber attack attempts per day, up from 100 million just 6 months ago. What's behind that?
They're making so much money out there right now. You look at the demographics of what we're dealing with, right? You have nation states. So, reportedly all of the telecom companies, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. I think T-Mobile's had 6 or 7 different data breaches over the past few years. But the more larger one where China was able to infiltrate the telecom infrastructure of AT&T and Verizon and record millions of calls and had massive, access to call recordings of sensitive private, communications between governors and senators, White House officials. They hacked apparently Trump and Vance phones to monitor and eavesdrop on conversations from that side. Wow. So you have nation state demographics that are very successful with these hacks. But then the ransomware groups, they're making so much money that this is an interesting field. It's a bubbling field, just like IT, AI, ML, cybersecurity is a bubbling field. And the crimeware side, the organized crime side, ransomware, it pays out. It pays out a lot of money. These folks can make a lot of money, partnering with these other groups and getting more sophisticated cyber weapons. And, you see this type of elevation occurring all across the board. And there doesn't seem to be any slowness of it. And if you knock out 1 or 2 of these groups, 5 more come in their place. And so it's a really massive problem we're dealing with in the cybersecurity front today.
I know Ken has a question for you, David.
Yeah, David, in the same article that Kelly just mentioned, it mentioned that Amazon has, I think, sightlines, so to speak, to 25% of the ISPs in the world, and that they're working with government a little bit better now to help fight cyber attacks. How important is it going forward, especially in the Trump administration, for them to work with these large companies like Amazon to help work as a team to fight cybercrime?
It's extremely critical for these organizations to communicate, to talk to one another, and to have larger organizations do more. As you know, a lot of companies have moved to more cloud predominance across their infrastructure. So they're using AWS or Amazon Web Services. They're using Microsoft Azure. They're leveraging Google Cloud. And so these companies have, really a sense of having to try to protect these other organizations that are in their tenants, as well as the companies themselves that have to secure themselves, and as well as the government that has historically not done a very good job of protecting its own infrastructure. Collaboration makes a big deal. If you look at, CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, they're tasked with protecting a lot of the critical infrastructure, whereas over 85% of critical infrastructure is private sector owned and usually on pretty legacy systems. It's never been more important today for that collaboration to occur both on the private sector and public sector to really try to come up with a really good strategy on protecting its organizations that it protects, in those clouds infrastructures, but also across the board.
Let me ask you for a quick answer here. There are those who hypothesize that a second Trump administration will have better relations with Putin than another administration might. If that comes to pass, will cybercrime from Russia decline materially, or is it not going to do that?
So cyber is very much used as a bargaining chip. I think what we'll actually see is a little bit of an elevation initially as a bargaining chip for saying, well, hey, we'll also throw this on the table. We'll die down a little bit on the cyber efforts on both sides, by the way. Our cyber folks, and the NSA and everybody else are continuously launching attacks to other nation states. It's always used as a bargaining chip. China has been very, very active over the past year going after our critical infrastructure. So these are all bargaining chips that will be played and used in negotiations, for Ukraine, in negotiations as we start to talk about tariffs in other areas. If you look at the most famous one in 2015 with Obama, we had a kind of a ceasefire on cyber for a few years, and that was used to essentially retool China, and now they're actively going after us in a much heavier state now. I think we will see a reduction in that as a bargaining chip in the future for sure, especially as the negotiations occur for Ukraine and other areas.
So it comes into all kinds of negotiations in ways we might not have anticipated. David Kennedy,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. David Kennedy
Anytime.
of Trusted Sec.